For my parents' 20th wedding anniversary, my mother made a light-hearted comment about my sister having a crush on my husband, which led him to reveal her past affair with a neighbor in front of the entire family. Family gatherings are meant to strengthen bonds, but when my parents invited my husband and me to their 20th anniversary celebration, I felt a sense of unease rather than joy. It wasn't because I didn't care for them, but because of my sister. Most people would jump at the chance to attend their parents' milestone anniversary, yet I was torn about going. The primary source of my hesitation was my sister. My younger sister and I have never been particularly close. Despite being only 2 years apart, we lack a strong connection. Much of this stems from her feelings toward me. She's harbored resentment since we were kids, and it's only grown over time. Growing up, our parents, especially our mother, who had a military background, were strict. Her disciplined mindset shaped how she raised us, fostering a constant rivalry between my sister and me. Everything from racing to the bus stop to completing chores was a competition. It wasn't just about doing your best. It was about being better than the other. At first, I thought this rivalry was harmless, maybe even beneficial. We were young, and a little sibling competition seemed normal. But as time passed, things took a darker turn. My sister struggled to keep up, especially in academics. I excelled in school, earning high grades and praise from our parents. Unfortunately, this only worsened things for my sister, Emily. My mother constantly compared her to me, and when Emily fell short, she faced severe consequences. There were evenings when she was denied dinner or made to stand in a corner for hours until she was exhausted. I could see the toll it took on her, not just physically but emotionally. My mother would point to me as the standard, saying things like, "Why can't you be more like your sister?" She even insisted I tutor Emily, hoping my help would boost her grades. I wanted to assist, but the intense pressure from our mother made it nearly impossible for Emily to focus. Emily wasn't passionate about academics. She was a lively, imaginative child who thrived outdoors, not confined to books. Studying bored her, no matter how much effort she put in. Over time, the constant comparisons and pressure wore her down. She grew to resent me, and I can't blame her. She always felt like she was lagging behind, unable to measure up. But I didn't enjoy being the focus of my mother's praise either. It made me uncomfortable, and I felt guilty for Emily. I also faced pressure to meet my mother's high expectations, and failing to do so brought its own stress. I tried speaking up for Emily, pointing out how unfair it was, but my mother would only scold me. Then, just before I left for college, something devastating happened. Emily overdosed on sleeping pills. Thankfully, our parents found her in time and rushed her to the hospital, where doctors saved her life. That moment was a wake-up call for our family, especially my mother. It was as if they finally saw the pain Emily had been bottling up for years. After the incident, things at home changed significantly. My parents started therapy with Emily to understand her struggles better. Since then, they've treated her with extreme caution, as if she might break at any moment. I've apologized to Emily multiple times, expressing regret for not doing more to protect her when we were younger. I've tried to mend our relationship, but the damage lingers. Even now, years later, my parents seem to baby her. They're overcompensating for the pain they caused her. While I understand their guilt, I don't think it's healthy. When my mother pushed Emily to attend college after high school, Emily threatened to harm herself again, saying she couldn't handle living away from home or pursuing higher education. As a result, she never earned a degree or secured stable employment. She struggles to hold down jobs, often losing them due to absenteeism or conflicts with coworkers. It's a cycle that keeps repeating. Emily still lives at home, doesn't pay rent, and depends on our parents for everything. Food, bills, you name it. To be clear, Emily doesn't currently have any diagnosed mental health conditions beyond the depression she experienced years ago. She attends therapy occasionally and is doing better overall. She's functional and even has a social circle, though they're not the healthiest group. They party often, funded entirely by our parents' money. That's what frustrates me the most. My parents never push her to take responsibility or challenge her to grow. They're terrified of triggering her, and Emily knows how to exploit that fear. Sometimes it feels like she manipulates them deliberately. When they asked me to contribute financially to their expenses, I refused. I know they're retired and their income is limited, especially with Emily contributing nothing. But I can't keep bailing them out when my sister lives so carelessly. There are also other reasons, which I'll explain later, that make it impossible for me to help. My husband is fully aware of my family's history. He can't stand Emily, Not just because she relies on our parents, but because she's made him uncomfortable repeatedly. Since meeting him, Emily has been overly flirtatious, trying to get close to him and even making inappropriate comments. She brushes it off as playful or friendly, and when I confront her, she laughs it off as a joke. What's worse is how my parents react. They don't acknowledge her behavior for what it is. Instead, they dismiss it as a harmless crush, like it's some silly, childish thing. Sometimes they even seem to encourage it. When my husband first met them, my mother said something like, "You're so witty. You'd be a better match for Emily. You share the same sense of humor." My father chimed in, agreeing that Emily's personality was more aligned with his. At first, my husband and I thought they were joking and tried to laugh it off. But over the years, they've made similar comments repeatedly, suggesting my husband and Emily would have been a better pair. It's become a recurring theme. On our wedding day, my mother even pulled my husband aside and asked, "Are you sure you want to marry Marisol?" It felt like she was giving him a chance to back out. I was heartbroken when I heard about it and had a major falling out with my parents, cutting contact for a while. They eventually apologized and promised to stop, but at Emily's next birthday, they went out of their way to position my husband next to her for photos or videos. He refused and we left before the cake was cut. We realized they weren't going to change, so we stopped attending family events where Emily was present. No birthdays, no gatherings, nothing. We distanced ourselves completely. My mother insists we attend this anniversary because extended family will be there, and she doesn't want people asking questions about our absence. But I know how it'll go with Emily there, and neither my husband nor I want to deal with it. While it bothers me, I wouldn't have married him if I thought he'd ever consider someone like Emily. It's just disrespectful to me. My husband's discomfort takes priority, so we're leaning toward his decision. I'd love to see relatives I haven't caught up with in years, but it's not worth the drama. I'm not asking whether I should go. I'm sharing this to vent and reflect on my childhood, stirred up by this invitation. Update 1, thank you to everyone who read and responded to my post. I didn't expect so many people to notice it among all the others out there. My husband brought up a point after we discussed the invitation. He thinks if we skip the event, my parents will make excuses for why I'm not there, and it might reflect poorly on us. He suggests we attend, and if Emily crosses a line, use it as a chance to address the issue publicly. That way they can't twist the narrative later. It's not a bad idea, but I'm worried it could backfire spectacularly. Update 2, we decided to go to my parents' anniversary, and I think the outcome was surprisingly positive. During the event, my parents were thrilled to see me. My mother hugged me tightly, saying she didn't think I'd come and was glad I did. I smiled and nodded, keeping things civil. Everything was fine until dinner. We were all chatting casually when an aunt mentioned that all my cousins were either married or in relationships, except Emily. She teased, half-jokingly, asking why Emily was still single and if she had someone special. Emily gave an awkward smile, blushing as if hiding something. A cousin playfully pushed her to spill the details. Then my mother, without hesitation, announced loudly, "Oh, I don't know about a boyfriend, but Emily's got a huge crush on her sister's husband." She pointed at my husband and giggled like a giddy teenager. My father joined in, chuckling heartily. I shot my mother a glare, but she was too caught up laughing with my aunt, going on about Emily's adorable crush. As if that wasn't enough, my aunt turned to my husband and asked, "Got any brothers or cousins for Emily to date?" A few relatives laughed. Emily just sat there, blushing and smiling, not stopping my parents or changing the subject. She soaked up the attention like it was a compliment. I felt my anger rising but stayed calm as we'd prepared for this. I was ready to speak up loudly enough for everyone to hear. I wasn't going to let this slide and have cousins gossiping later. I turned to my mother and said firmly, "How dare you talk about my husband like that?" The table went quiet, all eyes on me. I continued, "You both promised you'd respect our boundaries and stop putting us in these situations. Yet here you are, laughing about Emily's crush on my husband like it's a joke. You think it's cute because you're as clueless as she is." Then I addressed the table, my cousins, aunts, and uncles. How many of you think it's okay for someone to openly admit they're into their sibling's spouse, and for the family to laugh like it's entertainment? Is that normal to you? No one spoke. Then I turned to Emily. "You've been inappropriate with my husband for years. You flirt with him constantly, send him late-night texts he's never answered, and try to get too close when he's clearly uncomfortable. You act like it's all a game." Her face fell. I looked around and asked, "Do you all think this is funny? that it's okay for someone to behave this way toward their sister's husband. Then to my parents, "And you? How many times have you said my husband and Emily would be perfect together? You even said it on my wedding day. Do you realize how twisted that is? How disrespectful it is to me and my husband?" The silence was deafening. I turned to my aunt, who joined in the joking, and said, "Would you ever say this about your daughter's partner? Would you suggest he'd be better with someone else in the family? Would you let your daughter act like this toward someone's husband?" She looked stunned and shook her head slowly. "Exactly," I said. "So why is it okay when my parents do it to me?" My father's face was red, his fist clenched, but I cut him off. "Don't even try to speak. You think Mom and Emily have great chemistry. Maybe they should be a couple too. Just a thought, right?" He was livid, but my mother started to panic, stammering, "I didn't mean anything by it. It's just a harmless crush. We've always teased like this. It's not a big deal." That's when my husband stepped in, calm but firm. "If it's all a joke, then I guess your affair with the neighbor was just for laughs too, right?" he said to my mother. "Let's all have a good laugh about it." My mother froze, her eyes wide. He continued, "Was it just a fun little crush when you slept with the neighbor? Didn't mean anything, did it?" He was referring to a painful secret they'd kept hidden for years. My mother had cheated on my father with a neighbor, and when he found out, she begged him to stay. He did, for me and Emily, and seemed to move past it. I'd shared this with my husband, and before the dinner, he asked if he could use it to defend himself. I told him to use whatever he needed. My mother snapped, yelling that he had no right to bring it up and had gone too far. My father backed her, calling my husband disrespectful, but I was ready to defend him. "You crossed the line when you made my husband the butt of your creepy jokes," I said. "You crossed it when you kept defending Emily like she's an innocent kid, when she's been making my husband uncomfortable for years. It's weird that a grown woman like Emily is obsessed with her brother-in-law. She's not a child. She's an adult who needs a reality check." My mother started crying, playing the victim, as if I was the bad daughter for calling her out. But the rest of the table was processing what we'd said, especially the revelation about her affair. Emily finally spoke, shouting that I'd ruined the celebration. "You always act like the victim," I told her. "None of this would have happened if you hadn't started it. You sat there soaking up Mom's comments about your crush like it was cute. You didn't stop her. You just blushed and played along." As my parents and Emily argued, blaming each other, my husband and I left. The fighting wasn't going to stop, and we'd said what we needed to. They clung to their version of events, even with everyone listening. I told them calmly, "This is done. Don't contact us until you take responsibility. If you don't reach out even if one of you passes away." Family members started sending supportive messages. Even my aunt apologized for not speaking up when my mother made her comment. In the end, it went better than I expected. My husband was right. Ripping off the Band-Aid was worth it. Update 3: things have been quiet, almost uncomfortably so. I expected more calls from my parents, but I've only gotten a couple of voicemails. From what I can tell, they're too embarrassed to say much, likely worried we'll reveal more secrets if they push us. We've said everything there is to say. Maybe we could have worded things differently, but in the heat of the moment, that's how it came out. For instance, my husband planned to call Emily a nobody he'd never consider, but he forgot and focused on my mother's affair instead. Looking back, the night was a success. We stopped at a fast food joint afterwards since we barely ate, and we had a great time laughing over burgers and fries. Update 4: it's been nearly 6 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. First, despite cutting contact and warning her repeatedly, Emily started sending my husband strange, romantic letters. Even after we threatened legal action, she didn't stop. We had to escalate things. Then about a month ago, my husband and I got exciting news. We're expecting a baby. We were thrilled and shared it on social media, which was a mistake. Earlier this week, my husband came home to find Emily on our porch, waiting for him. She stood up as soon as she saw him. Feeling unsafe, he rushed to his car and drove off as she ran after him, pleading to talk. He called me and I raced home. We contacted the police immediately. Since we'd already reported her letters, it wasn't hard to have her detained for a few days until my parents bailated her out. She still faces a trial. We'd filed for a restraining order, which was still pending when she showed up. Our lawyer explained that defending her could cost my parents $10,000, $20,000, or more with a high-end attorney. Given their retirement income and Emily's lack of contribution, that's a heavy burden. It feels petty, but if Emily continues her obsessive behavior and my parents enable it, the legal costs will hit them hard. I'll keep updating as things progress. Update 5, I promised I'd return, and here I am with more to share. First, after we secured the restraining order, Emily violated it by trying to approach my husband again. This caused my parents to lose their bail money. Second, Emily lost her trial. I don't know how much my parents spent, but it wasn't a public defender, and they paid heavily. Emily served 6 months, including pre- and post-trial time, and is now in mandatory court-ordered therapy. Third, my parents divorced. The public humiliation of my mother's affair, combined with Emily's behavior and the financial strain, pushed my father to his limit. He finally stood up for himself and left. My mother has custody of Emily, not legally since she's an adult, but they live together. Both have gone back to work as the trial and divorce drained their savings. Fourth, the family has distanced themselves. They didn't offer financial help during the trial and have cut contact, unfriending or blocking my mother and Emily on social media. Fifth, social media has amplified this. Others, not us, have spread the story, making it hard for my mother and Emily to find a place to rent after losing their home. My father moved out of state, while my mother relocated a few towns away, as Emily can't leave the state per court orders. Sixth, life is much happier now. Emily remains a potential concern, but with a restraining order and criminal record, she's unlikely to risk more trouble. Seventh, I want to thank everyone again and say hello while I enjoy motherhood.